The silence of space shattered as the first Kravax ships emerged from the darkness. Their vessels resembled giant insects, black and gleaming with sharp edges that seemed designed to cut through more than just the vacuum of space. They moved with deadly purpose toward Earth's orbital stations. Alan Foster stood frozen at the command center viewport of Orbital Defense Station Alpha. His coffee mug slipped from his fingers and floated in the zero gravity as the alarm systems flared to life around him. "Contact command now," he shouted to his communications officer, a young woman named Diane Kelly, who was already frantically working her console. "Sir, they're jamming all frequencies," Diane replied, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. Alan had been in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years. He had trained for first contact scenarios, practiced diplomatic protocols, and prepared defensive maneuvers. None of that training had prepared him for what they now faced. Intelligence reports from the outer colonies had been trickling in for months, stories of an unstoppable alien force that left nothing but empty worlds in their wake, the Kravax. Until today, many had believed they were just rumors. "All personnel to battle stations," Alan ordered through the station intercom. "This is not a drill." Before the station's defenses could fully activate, the lead Kravax ship fired a pulse of energy that knocked out their primary power grid. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the station in dim red light. "They knew exactly where to hit us," muttered Sam Bishop, the station's tactical officer. His hands moved quickly over his console, rerouting systems and bringing up secondary defenses. A message suddenly appeared on all screens, the text translating itself into English before their eyes. "Your species will serve as sustenance. Resistance is futile." Alan felt a chill run through his body. Not conquerors, not explorers, hunters. They saw humans as nothing but food. Across the solar system, reports flooded in of similar attacks on Earth's outer defensive perimeter. Station Beta had already gone dark. The lunar colony was under heavy assault. "Sir, we have enemy craft approaching the station. They appear to be boarding vessels," Diane reported. Alan made a quick decision. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Security teams to all docking points." Dr. Olivia Martinez was collecting data samples in the research lab when the evacuation order came through. As the chief xenobiologist for the station, she had been studying the limited footage of Kravax attacks on other worlds, looking for any pattern that might reveal something about their biology or behavior. Instead of heading to the escape pods with the others, she locked herself in the lab and transferred all the station's data on the Kravax to her secure terminal. If Earth was going to have any chance, they needed information, and she was possibly the only person on the station who might recognize something useful. The station shook as the first boarding craft attached to the hull. Through the security cameras, Olivia watched the Kravax enter the station. They moved with frightening speed and precision, their bodies covered in natural armor that resembled burnished copper. Each alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms ending in clawed hands. Their heads were elongated with no visible eyes, only sensory pits that seemed to detect movement and heat. Defense teams engaged the intruders with little effect. Conventional weapons barely penetrated their armor, and the Kravax moved too quickly for the defenders to maintain a coordinated defense. One by one, security teams fell silent. Olivia worked frantically, reviewing footage from the current attack alongside data from previous encounters. There had to be something, some weakness they could exploit. She noticed that when the emergency lighting activated, several of the Kravax paused momentarily, their movements becoming less fluid. "The light," she whispered to herself. Something about the frequency. She pulled up the specifications for the station's emergency lighting system. The red lights operated at a specific wavelength that standard human vision found easy to adjust to while preserving night vision. Could the Kravax visual system or sensory organs be sensitive to particular frequencies? The lab door shuddered as something heavy slammed against it. Olivia worked faster, testing her theory by changing the light settings in various sections of the station and observing the aliens' reactions through the security feeds. When she switched one corridor to a pulsing blue-green pattern, the Kravax inside visibly slowed, their movements becoming erratic. "Found you," she said with grim satisfaction. The lab door burst open. 3 Kravax warriors entered, their claw-tipped limbs clicking against the metal floor. Olivia backed away, reaching blindly for the environmental controls. As the aliens advanced, she managed to switch the lab lighting to the same blue-green frequency. The effect was immediate. The lead Kravax stopped, its head swaying from side to side as if disoriented. The other two bumped into each other, their coordinated hunting behavior disrupted. Olivia used the moment to reach her console. She quickly compiled her observations into a data packet and sent it to Earth Command with an urgent priority tag. They have weaknesses. We just need to unmask the beasts. As she hit send, one of the Kravax recovered enough to lunge forward. Olivia dove aside, but not quickly enough to avoid a slash from its claws. Pain erupted across her shoulder as she fell to the floor. The station's systems announced a new warning. Hull breach in sectors 7 through 9. Catastrophic system failure imminent. Alan Foster and his remaining crew fought desperately to reach the final escape pods. Only 12 of the original 50 crew members remained. They had sealed off sections of the station, trying to slow the Kravax advance, but it was clear the station was lost. "Commander, look at this," Diane called out, holding up her datapad. "Dr. Martinez just sent this to Earth Command." Alan reviewed the data as they ran. "She found something," he said with the first spark of hope he'd felt since the attack began. "If we can get this to Earth." They reached the escape pod bay to find 2 pods remaining. Alan divided the survivors between them. "Everyone in. That's an order." As the pods launched away from the dying station, Alan watched through the viewport as the Kravax ships began to turn toward Earth. His pod's communication system crackled to life with desperate messages from other stations under attack. From Earth Command mobilizing defenses, from civilian channels filled with confusion and fear. But mixed in with the chaos was Olivia's last transmission, already being analyzed by scientists on Earth. The data that might give humanity its only chance. "They're not invincible," Alan told the frightened crew members in his pod. "We just need to learn how to fight them." Behind them, Orbital Defense Station Alpha exploded in a silent flash of light. The Kravax fleet moved on, unaware that their first encounter with humans had already revealed secrets they had kept hidden across 17 conquered star systems. The hunt for Earth had begun, but for the first time, the hunters faced prey that might learn to fight back. Jack Daniels knelt in the mud outside Denver, studying tracks that no Earth animal had made. The 4-toed prints were deeper at the front, showing the weight distribution of a predator built to spring forward. He had tracked mountain lions, bears and wolves across Montana for 20 years. These new tracks told a similar story, but far more dangerous. "They move in groups of 3, he said, looking up at the soldiers surrounding him. "Like wolves, but with more planning." The squad leader, a woman named Sergeant Linda Harris, nodded grimly. "Command said you might notice things we wouldn't." "What else?" Jack stood, wiping his hands on his worn jeans. 3 weeks had passed since the Kravax destroyed Earth's orbital defenses. The aliens had established bases in remote areas and were now sending hunting parties into populated regions. Denver was their latest target. "They're careful about open spaces," Jack continued. "See how they stick to cover? And these deeper marks here, they're testing the ground, looking for traps." 2 days earlier, Jack had been guiding a hunting trip when military helicopters landed nearby. The officers told him his unique skills were needed for national security. Jack had laughed until they showed him the footage of the alien attacks. Now he was part of Operation Unmask, working with scientists and military personnel to understand humanity's new predators. Back at the temporary base camp, Dr. Ellie Winters waited with new data from captured Kravax technology. The neurologist had been studying brain patterns in predator species before the invasion. Now her expertise was being applied to understand alien psychology. "These light-frequency tests are fascinating," she said as Jack entered the tent. "The last transmission from Orbital Station Alpha was right. Their sensory system has specific vulnerabilities." Ellie displayed brain scans taken from a dead Kravax hunter. Their visual processing centers are hyper-specialized. They see motion and heat with incredible precision, but certain light patterns create sensory overload. Admiral Susan Morgan joined them, her usually crisp uniform showing signs of the sleepless, Nights all of Earth's leadership was enduring. Can we weaponize this information? Already working on it, Ellie replied. We've modified searchlights to produce the disruptive frequencies. They're being distributed to defensive positions around Denver. Susan studied the tactical map showing Kravak's positions. They'll attack at sunset. Their previous hunting patterns are consistent. Jack traced the likely approach routes with his finger. They'll come from the northwest, using the hills for cover. They always attack from high ground when available. As predicted, the Kravaks struck at sunset. 3 hunting parties of 5 aliens each approached the city from different angles. They moved with frightening speed and coordination, their copper-colored bodies blending with the dusk light. Jack watched from an observation post as the human defenders implemented their plan. When the aliens reached the outer defensive perimeter, massive searchlights activated, bathing the area in pulsing blue-green light. The effect was immediate. The lead Kravak stumbled, its 4 arms waving erratically. The others showed similar disorientation, their perfect hunting formation falling apart. "It's working," Ellie whispered beside him. For the first time since the invasion began, human forces gained an advantage. Specially equipped soldiers moved in, using weapons modified to penetrate the aliens' natural armor at its thinnest points. Knowledge gained from studying fallen Kravaks. One of the aliens broke away from its hunting party, moving toward a hidden observation post where Jack and Ellie monitored the battle. A soldier fired, wounding the creature. It crashed through the underbrush and collapsed 10 feet from their position. Jack approached cautiously, signaling the others to cover him. The wounded Kravaks was still alive, its body heaving with labored breathing. Up close, Jack could see details that weren't visible in the footage, specialized organs along the side of its elongated head that pulsed with internal light. "Those are sensory organs," Ellie said, scanning the creature with a handheld device. "They're reacting strongly to our light weapons." The wounded Kravak suddenly lunged at Jack with surprising speed. He jumped back as soldiers fired, finally killing the creature. Its body fell forward, armor plating cracking open at the joints. Jack knelt beside it, examining the exposed areas. "Look at this," he called to Ellie. "The armor isn't technology, it's biological. And these parts here, they're like specialized gills." Ellie took samples while Jack continued his examination. Years of understanding predator anatomy helped him recognize patterns even in this alien form. "They're ambush predators," he said finally. "Everything about them is designed for the perfect kill. Their senses, their armor, their movements, all specialized for hunting." Later at the command center, Jack presented his findings to the military council. The defensive success at Denver had bought them valuable time and data. "These aren't invincible conquerors," Jack explained, displaying images of the Kravak's anatomy. "They're specialized hunters with extreme adaptations, and specialized hunters always have specialized weaknesses." Admiral Susan Morgan leaned forward. "Explain." "Earth's top predators all have limitations imposed by their specialization," Jack said. "Great white sharks have blind spots below their snouts. Tigers can't distinguish certain colors. Every specialized evolutionary trait comes with trade-offs." Ellie continued the explanation with her neurological findings. "The Kravak sensory system is incredibly advanced, but narrowly focused. They process certain frequencies thousands of times better than humans, but others barely register at all, like being deaf to certain sounds," offered Colonel Peter Harris from the Tactical Division. "Exactly," Ellie agreed. "And their vision seems to focus on movement and heat signatures. Our light weapons overload their sensory organs because they simply can't filter out those frequencies." Jack pulled up footage from previous Kravak's attacks. "Look at how they hunt. Always the same patterns, the same formations. They don't adapt their tactics. They haven't needed to for thousands of years." Susan considered this information. "Because they've never faced serious resistance before. They've conquered 17 worlds without changing their methods," Ellie said. "Their technology is advanced, but their behavior is rigid." Jack nodded. "On Earth, when a predator specializes too much, it becomes vulnerable when conditions change. The Kravaks have been the galaxy's apex predator for so long they've lost adaptability." The Denver success was replicated in smaller engagements around the world as human forces implemented the new countermeasures. For the first time, the Kravacs were being driven back, confused by weapons that targeted their biological weaknesses. In the command center, plans for a global strategy took shape. Scientists worked around the clock to develop more effective weapons based on the new understanding of Kravac's biology. "We need to coordinate worldwide," Susan told her international counterparts on the secure video link. "Operation Unmask is now our primary defense initiative." As dawn broke over the Denver battlefield, Jack stood among the fallen Kravacs, studying their bodies with new understanding. These weren't the invincible monsters of humanity's nightmares. They were simply predators, deadly, efficient, but bound by the limitations of their own evolutionary path. "Humanity has never been the strongest species on Earth," he told Ellie as they documented their findings. "We survived because we adapted. Now we need to adapt faster than ever before." Colonel Peter Harris stood at the window of the underground command center, watching technicians install the massive speakers that would be Earth's newest weapon. 3 months had passed since the successful defense of Denver. In that time, Operation Unmask had grown from a desperate experiment into humanity's best hope. "The Sydney installation is complete," reported Major Lisa Chen, handing Peter a tablet with the latest updates. "And Nicole Wright's team has the electromagnetic pulse generators ready." Peter nodded. Intelligence reports indicated the Kravacs were planning simultaneous attacks on major cities worldwide. This time, Earth would be ready. "And Lagos?" he asked. "Kevin. Jones has deployed his drone swarms. They're programmed with the light patterns that mimic Kravac's prey species. The plan was risky, but built on solid science. After Denver, researchers had captured enough Kravac's technology and biological samples to understand more about their evolution and weaknesses." Dr. Ellie Winters entered the command center with fresh analysis. "The latest tests confirm our theory," she said, bringing up images on the main screen. "The Kravacs evolved on a world with very specific environmental conditions. Their sensory systems are perfectly adapted for hunting there. But that specialization creates blind spots here on Earth." The screen showed detailed scans of Kravac's sensory organs. Their equivalent of ears can detect the slightest movement from incredible distances, but certain sound frequencies simply don't register. It's like they physically cannot hear them. Peter studied the information. "And the electromagnetic pulses?" "Their communication system uses natural bioelectrical signals, similar to how electric eels generate current," Ellie explained. "Nicole's EMP generators should disrupt those signals completely." In Sydney, mechanic Nicole Wright made final adjustments to her improvised EMP generators. Before the invasion, she had repaired farm equipment. Now she was converting tractors and harvesters into weapons against alien predators. "Ready to test," she called to her team of volunteers. The generator hummed to life, sending an invisible pulse across the testing range. The captured Kravac's communication device on the platform sparked and went dark. "That's what I'm talking about," Nicole said with grim satisfaction. "Let's get these installed around the harbor." In Lagos, Nigeria, programmer Kevin Jones monitored his drone swarms from a makeshift control center. He had been developing agricultural monitoring drones when the invasion began. Now his tiny machines carried specialized LED arrays, programmed to disorient Kravac's hunters. "The pattern mimics their primary prey species from their homeworld," Kevin explained to the military observers. "According to the biological data, this should trigger confusion in their hunting instincts." The drones performed a demonstration, thousands of lights blinking in patterns that seemed random to human eyes but would appear as false targets to Kravac's sensory organs. "Beautiful," whispered one of the generals. "They won't know what to attack." At Command Central, Peter Harris initiated the global coordination call with military leaders from 6 continents. "The Kravacs have conquered 17 worlds using the same hunting tactics," he told them. "They've never needed to adapt because they've never faced resistance. Today, that changes." Admiral Susan Morgan joined the call from the mobile command ship in the Pacific. "Satellite tracking shows Kravac's vessels moving into position. Expected attack time is 600 hours UTC. All defense zones report ready status. Peter confirmed. Remember, we don't need to defeat them completely. We just need to disrupt their hunting patterns enough to force a retreat. When the Kravax attack came, it followed their predictable pattern. Landing craft deployed to the designated hunting grounds near major population centers. Hunting parties moved in perfect formation, exactly as they had on every world they had conquered before. But this time, they faced a prepared enemy. In Sydney, Nicole's EMP generators activated as the first Kravax hunters approached the harbor. The aliens stumbled, their coordinated movement suddenly chaotic as their communication systems failed. In Lagos, Kevin's drone swarms created a bewildering light show that scattered the hunting formations. The Kravax, programmed by evolution to chase certain movement patterns, followed false targets into prepared ambushes. In London, building-sized speakers broadcast sound frequencies that humans couldn't hear, but that overloaded Kravax sensory systems. The aliens clutched at their head organs, disoriented and vulnerable. Earth's defenders moved in with weapons specifically designed to penetrate the weak points in Kravax armor. For the first time, the aliens retreated in disarray. In the command center, Peter watched the tactical displays with cautious hope. "It's working," he said quietly. "They're running," Lisa confirmed, tracking the Kravax withdrawal. "All cities report successful defense." The victory was not without cost. Thousands of defenders had died holding their positions long enough for the countermeasures to work. Buildings lay in ruins and parts of major cities burned. But humanity had survived the coordinated attack that should have ended their resistance. In the aftermath, scientists gathered unprecedented data from fallen Kravax and their abandoned technology. Dr. Harris joined Ellie in the research lab where technicians carefully dissected alien remains. "Look at this," Ellie said, pointing to a neural structure in the Kravax brain. Their entire nervous system evolved for one purpose: hunting. They literally cannot process certain types of input because they never needed to. Further analysis of captured Kravax technology revealed more about their history. They had evolved on a world where their species became the undisputed apex predator early in their development. Their technology advanced, but their basic hunting nature remained unchanged for thousands of years. They've never faced another predator that could study them, Ellie realized, and humans are history's most adaptable predators. Peter brought the findings to the United Earth Defense Council the next day. Representatives from every nation gathered to hear the report. "The Kravax aren't invincible," he told them. "They're the product of an evolutionary path that made them perfect predators in their environment. But that same specialization creates weaknesses we can exploit." The council viewed footage from the successful defenses. For the first time since the invasion began, hope replaced fear in the faces of Earth's leaders. "We need to take this further," Peter continued. "Now that we understand how they hunt, we need to develop more sophisticated countermeasures. And eventually, we need to take the fight to them." Admiral Susan Morgan stepped forward with an unexpected proposal. "The Kravax ship we captured in Sydney is mostly intact. Our engineers believe they can adapt the technology to our own vessels." The implications were clear. Humanity was no longer just defending, they were preparing to go on the offensive. As the council debated next steps, Peter received an urgent message. A communication had been detected from beyond the solar system, a transmission on frequencies the Kravax couldn't perceive. The message was simple: "Others watch your resistance with hope. You are not alone in this fight." Somewhere out there, other species that had faced the Kravax were reaching out. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy was watching. Captain Maria Evans watched the stars through the viewport of the USS Defiance. 6 months of rapid engineering had transformed the vessel from an Earth orbit station into humanity's first interstellar warship. Much of its technology had been reverse-engineered from captured Kravax vessels. Now it led a small fleet of similar ships on humanity's first offensive mission. 10 minutes to exit from faster-than-light travel, announced Navigation Officer Paul Rivera. All systems functioning normally. Maria nodded, her focus on the tactical display showing their target: a Kravax supply fleet, moving between conquered worlds. Send the final briefing to all ships, she ordered her communications officer. I want everyone clear on the mission parameters. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Many had survived the initial attacks on Earth's orbital defenses. All had lost someone to the alien predators. Now they had a chance to strike back. They think they're the galaxy's perfect hunters, Maria told her crew during the final check. Let's show them what happens when the prey learns to hunt back. The human vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel on the edge of a binary star system. Passive sensors immediately detected the Kravax supply fleet, 8 vessels moving, in the predictable formation they always used. Enemy ships have not altered course, Tactical Officer Steve Burton reported. They don't see us yet. The human fleet carried new weapons specifically designed to exploit Kravax vulnerabilities. Disruptor fields that targeted their neural pathways, dampening systems that neutralized their natural sonar abilities, and electromagnetic pulse generators that disabled their technology without harming human systems. Deploy the countermeasure drones, Maria ordered. From the lead ship, swarms of small drones launched toward the Kravax fleet. Each carried specialized transmitters programmed to broadcast on frequencies that Kravax sensory systems could not filter out. Drones in position, Steve confirmed. Ready to activate on your command. Maria took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since discovering the aliens' weaknesses. Activate countermeasures and move in. All ships weapons free. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Kravax vessels, which had been moving in perfect formation, suddenly scattered in confusion. Their communication systems, overwhelmed by signals they had no defenses against, went silent. It's working, Paul said, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. Their formation is breaking apart. The human fleet moved in, targeting the supply vessels with precision strikes that disabled their propulsion systems without destroying the ships themselves. This wasn't just an attack. It was a capture mission. One Kravax vessel managed to activate its weapons, firing energy pulses at the USS Defiance. The shots went wide, evidence of the confusion aboard the alien ship. Return fire, target there, weapon systems only, Maria commanded. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. When it ended, the entire Kravax supply fleet had been captured intact, with minimal casualties on either side. For the first time in recorded history, a Kravax fleet had been defeated without a single ship escaping to warn their homeworld. Secure the vessels and prepare boarding teams, Maria ordered. Full containment protocols for any Kravax crew. The boarding teams, led by bioengineer Frank Williams, entered the captured ships wearing specialized gear designed to protect them from Kravax weapons while allowing them to deploy the sensory countermeasures at close range. Frank's team found the Kravax crew incapacitated by the neural disruptors, their complex nervous systems overwhelmed by input they couldn't process. They carefully secured the aliens for transport and began cataloging the ship's contents. Captain, you need to see this, Frank radioed from the largest supply ship. His voice held a mix of horror and scientific fascination. When Maria arrived, at the cargo hold, she understood his reaction. The vast chamber contained thousands of stasis pods, each holding different alien species, some humanoid, others utterly unlike anything from Earth. They're not dead, Frank explained, checking the life support systems. They're in suspended animation. According to these readings, some have been here for years. Livestock, Maria said quietly, the truth dawning on her. They don't just conquer worlds. They harvest species for food. Further exploration of the fleet revealed more disturbing truths about the Kravax. They didn't build colonies or settle planets. They converted conquered worlds into massive hunting preserves and breeding grounds for the species they consumed. Back aboard the Defiance, Frank made another breakthrough while examining the captive Kravax. Their entire nervous system is optimized for hunting, he reported to Maria and the science team. Look at these brain scans. The areas for processing certain sensory inputs are massively developed, while others are practically non-existent. The scans showed Kravax neural pathways that were hyper-specialized for detecting movement, heat, and specific light patterns associated with prey species. They literally cannot perceive certain frequencies and patterns, Frank continued. It's not just a weakness, it's a complete blind spot in their evolution. This discovery explained why the countermeasures worked so effectively. The Kravacs weren't simply disoriented by certain frequencies. They were biologically incapable of processing them, leaving them completely vulnerable. With the supply fleet secured and its precious cargo of captive alien species being tended to by human medical teams, Maria sent a coded transmission back to Earth Command. Mission accomplished. Fleet captured intact, returning with prisoners and rescued alien captives. The response came hours later from Admiral Susan Morgan. Excellent work. Prepare for Phase 2 upon your return. Kravacs have dispatched a massive retaliatory fleet toward Earth. When the Defiance and its sister ships returned to Earth orbit 2 weeks later, they found a planet transformed by war but united in purpose. Defense systems incorporating the latest countermeasure technology surrounded the planet. The captured Kravacs technology had been rapidly adapted to enhance Earth's defenses. In orbit, a growing fleet of converted vessels prepared to meet the coming attack. Unlike the specialized, unchanging Kravacs hunting formations, the human defense plans evolved daily as new insights into alien biology emerged. They hunt like perfect machines, observed Tactical Officer Lisa Chen as she coordinated the orbital defense grid. But machines can't adapt when the rules suddenly change. The rescued alien species provided invaluable information about Kravacs' behavior and weaknesses. Many had been abducted from worlds conquered generations ago. Their knowledge of the predators passed down through whatever form of cultural memory they possessed. A blue-skinned humanoid called Zarin, whose world had fallen to the Kravacs 2 centuries earlier, worked closely with human scientists. Your species has accomplished in months what mine could not achieve in decades, he told Frank. You understand what they are, not invincible gods but simply evolved hunters with specific limitations. When the Kravacs' retaliatory fleet arrived, they found not a cowering civilization, but a prepared opponent who understood their biology better than they understood humanity's. The battle in Earth orbit demonstrated how quickly humans had adapted. The Kravacs' hunting formations, unchanged for millennia of successful conquests, were now predictable and exploitable. For the first time in their long history of galactic terror, the Kravacs were forced to retreat in disarray, their losses catastrophic. Their prey suddenly transformed into a formidable predator. Admiral Susan Morgan stood before the United Earth Council with a bold proposal. The large chamber fell silent as the screens displayed images of the Kravacs' homeworld, captured from the memory banks of their vessels. For too long, these predators have terrorized the galaxy, she said, her voice steady but filled with conviction. We now know there are dozens of species who have been reduced to near extinction. The Kravacs aren't conquerors seeking territory. They're consumers who leave nothing behind. The council members, representatives from every nation on Earth, listened intently. 1 year had passed since the first Kravac ships appeared in Earth orbit. In that time, humanity had gone from near defeat to standing on the edge of a counteroffensive. We have 2 choices, Susan continued. We can defend Earth indefinitely or we can end this threat at its source. Images shifted to show the rescued alien species now living in protected habitats on Earth. Many had begun to share their technology and knowledge, grateful for their liberation from Kravacs' captivity. Our allies have provided us with maps of Kravacs' territory, Susan explained. With their help, we can take the fight to the enemy's homeworld. After 3 hours of debate, the council voted. The mission was approved. Operation Final Unmask would target the heart of Kravacs' power. Jack Daniels, the former hunting guide who had first identified the aliens' predatory patterns, now stood on the bridge of the USS Challenger as its captain. The massive vessel represented the pinnacle of human adaptation, Earth technology enhanced with knowledge from both Kravacs' engineering and the grateful alien refugees. All systems ready, Captain, reported his first officer, Laura Wilson. The fleet is awaiting your signal. The Challenger led a fleet of 20 ships, each carrying specialized weapons designed to exploit every Kravac's weakness discovered over the past year. With them traveled representatives from 7 alien species, survivors who had volunteered to help liberate their worlds. Begin faster-than-light sequence, Jack ordered. Next stop, Kravac space. The journey would take 3 weeks. During that time, the crew trained relentlessly, while the scientists continued to refine their understanding of the enemy. Dr. Ellie Winters, now the fleet's chief science officer, had made another breakthrough in understanding Kravac psychology. There, society is entirely based on hunting hierarchy, she explained during a briefing. Status is determined solely by hunting prowess. It explains why they never developed beyond their predatory nature even as their technology advanced. This insight proved valuable when the fleet reached the first conquered world. The planet, once home to the insect-like Vrilnax, had been converted into a vast hunting preserve. Kravac sporting parties regularly visited to hunt the remaining native population. Using Earth's countermeasures, the human forces quickly overwhelmed the Kravac's outpost. The surviving Vrilnax emerged from hiding, their compound eyes reflecting the light of freedom for the first time in generations. Our world was the fifth they conquered, explained Zenthar, the Vrilnax leader. We have waited 200 years for this day. The Vrilnax contributed their remaining stealth technology to the human fleet. On the next world, the bird-like Zenari shared their detailed knowledge of Kravac's social structures. The nearly extinct Tellerans provided star maps showing secret approaches to the Kravac's homeworld. Planet by planet, the fleet moved deeper into enemy territory, gathering allies and refining their strategy. The Kravacs, faced with weapons that exploited their evolutionary blind spots, could not adapt quickly enough to counter the human advances. Finally, the combined fleet reached the Kravac's homeworld, a lush planet with vast forests and open plains, teeming with wildlife. From orbit, it appeared peaceful and beautiful. Their natural habitat, Ellie observed. Everything here evolved to make them the perfect predator. Jack studied the tactical displays showing Kravac's defenses, which means everything here also shaped their limitations. Instead of launching an all-out attack, the fleet deployed a new strategy. Thousands of small probes descended to the planet's surface, each broadcasting the sensory patterns that the Kravacs could not process. At the same time, larger ships positioned themselves to block communications between the homeworld and its hunting territories. On the planet's surface, chaos erupted as the ruling Kravac's elites found themselves suddenly vulnerable in ways they had never experienced. Their perfect sensory systems, evolved over millions of years, became their greatest weakness. They're retreating to their central strongholds, reported Laura, tracking the movement below, just as we predicted. Jack nodded. Launch the second phase. The fleet broadcast a carefully crafted message to the Kravac civilization. It showed images from every world they had conquered, but from a new perspective, revealing the Kravacs, not as unstoppable predators but as beings with specific limitations that could be exploited. For 50,000 years you have believed yourselves the galaxy's apex predators, Dr. Ellie Winters' voice narrated over the broadcast. Today that belief ends. You evolved to be perfect hunters, but you stopped evolving. Humanity never had that luxury. We've always needed to adapt or die. Your reign as the galaxy's apex predator ends today. The message concluded with an ultimatum. Surrender all conquered worlds and withdraw to their home planet, or face total defeat from weapons they could neither defend against nor adapt to. For 3 days, there was no response. Then a signal came, from the planet's surface. The Kravac's supreme hunt leader requested to speak with the human commander. In the virtual meeting space, Jack faced the alien leader, a massive Kravac whose copper-colored armor bore elaborate markings of status. In 50,000 years, no species has reached our homeworld, the Kravac's leader stated. How did you accomplish this in 1 year? You evolved to be the perfect predator, Jack replied simply. We evolved to adapt. When faced with extinction, humanity does not accept defeat. We change the rules. The negotiations lasted 2 weeks. When they concluded, the Kravacs had agreed to withdraw from all conquered worlds and remain confined to their home system, under monitoring from a coalition of former victim species. As the fleet prepared to escort the first groups of aliens returning to their liberated homeworlds, Commander Alan Foster, now Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Council, addressed the combined crews. The universe doesn't belong to those with the sharpest claws or the deadliest weapons, he said. It belongs to those who can adapt, cooperate, and recognize that true strength comes from understanding both your enemies and yourself. The Kravaks had been unmasked. Their reign of terror ended not by superior force, but by humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage, the ability to understand, adapt, and overcome. And the galaxy would never be the same.